Okay, good evening, everyone. I hope my voice is audible and you're able to see the screen. Good evening. All right. So far we've discussed. Yesterday we discussed about live servers, and what else did we discuss? JavaScript. Yes, and I also gave you a to-do, I suppose. Yes, finished. JavaScript to-do is done. You all were able to upload your files in GitHub. Yes, and you've shared the GitHub URL as well. Okay. We'll have a look at it then. All right. So today we'll start with the backend. So far, whatever we've seen is with the front end part, right? With HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. என்ன start பண்ணலாமா? So we've so far seen with the front end part. So now today we'll start with the backend part. Okay, backend, as I told you, that is the server side. Yes. So first, what I'll show you is, now we have this live server here. We have this live cPanel here. And when I log into this cPanel, I was showing you what features they have in this cPanel, right? So they have email options, file options, database options, and all that. Okay. Now let me open this database. In this database, we have PHP MyAdmin, MySQL database, and we have other two. So I'll go open this PHP MyAdmin. All right. So when I open PHP MyAdmin, this is the server page that gets open here. All right. This is the page where you will create the database tables and you will store the data. So whatever data you are going to enter from your website, the user is going to enter from the web page, it will be stored in this backend page. Okay. In the left hand side, if you see, these are called the databases. So we have few databases here already. Okay. And when I click on database, see here, I have so many tables inside the database. And when I open any table, I have data inside the table. Okay. Now, this is a live server, which I'm showing you, which we have already purchased. So now, whatever changes I make here, it will get applied in the actual website. If I go change anything here, it will get applied in the actual website. Now, you don't have a server like this with you for you to practice it and see, right? So in that case, for the server part, what we are going to do is you are going to install a local server called exam. Okay. So exam is a local server which you can download and install in your system, so that you can achieve a server page something like this. You will also find a server page something like this. But with exam, whatever changes you are doing, that will be applicable only to your system. It will be changed only locally. It will not go out of this computer. Okay, so for practice sake, and for people who are doing development also, they'll have a server by default in their system, so that they can work on all the tables and other stuff directly. And their only work will be to upload the entire exam data to your actual server data once the work is done. So you can just import and export data from your local to the original server. Right. Now to download exam server, what you can do is you can just go type download exam in Google, and it is going to take you to the official web page, that is apachefriends.org. Open this web page, and here you have many versions of exam for Windows, for Linux, for Mac, and all that. So what you can do is you can download it from here. Any version is fine. All right, you will download it from here. Or if you want the downloaded file, we have already shared a tools drive link in your channel, right? Exam is there inside that tool drive link also. So you can download it from there. Anywhere, whichever one you want, you can download it. Once you download, installation step of exam is very easy. So once the first step is you will download it. And second step, install nothing. You just have to click next, 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 next and install. That's it. Okay, no big thing. It will just install in 2 or 3 minutes. That's it. Now once you install, where will this exam go get installed by default? By default, it will be installed in your C drive. So now if in my computer, I'll go to local disk C. If I go to local disk C, see here, the last folder which I have is exam. So after installation, you will get a folder something like this. Okay. Once you get a folder like this, the next step that you will do is you will open this folder, open this exam folder, scroll down. If you scroll down, you will find 3 icons here: exam start, stop, and exam control. In that, double click on exam control. Okay, you have to double click on exam control. You can either do this, or another option is just go to start. Just go to start and type exam. You will find the control panel here. In your system, go to start and type exam. You will find the control panel here. If you are not able to find the control panel in your start icon, you can go to exam folder and double click on this exam hyphen control. So when you double click on this exam hyphen control, you will get this dialog box. Okay. You will get this particular dialog box. Now, exam, as I told you, it is a local server. It comes with multiple options. So the first one which it has is Apache. Apache, that is the server which we need for running our web pages. And then you have MySQL, wherein if you want to create database and tables, you need that also. So what you will do is you will start. I have already started it. You should also start. So once you start, you should get something, an output something like this, running and running. So both has to start. It should show you this port numbers 80 and 3306. If it is not showing you these port numbers, and instead of showing port numbers, if it is showing you any error here at the bottom, if it shows you any error, it means this particular port 80 and this particular port 3306 is being occupied by some other servers in your system. If these two ports are not free, these two services will not start. You will get an error. So if you get an error, I'll also in the notes, I will share you a command in your notes. Okay. You can use that command to release these ports. I'll show you how to rectify that error, and again, come here and you can start it. Okay. You just have to go to command prompt, type 2 line of command, which I'll give you in your notes. Just type those 2 lines. It will free the port. Once it frees the port, you can come here and you can start it again. Okay. But by default for you, if you're doing it for the first time, it is going to work properly. All right. It is going to work properly. You will get this running and running status. Now, once you get this running and running status, how do you verify? So fourth step is you'll start Apache and MySQL. And once you start this, the last step, you have to verify. How will you verify? You have to go to your browser, open any browser, Chrome or Firefox, and go to URL and type localhost. You have to type localhost. Once you type localhost, you should get this page, exam welcome page. This page will be displayed only if this Apache server is started. If it is not started, you will not get this page. Okay. Now, here in this page, you see an option here called PHP MyAdmin, right? Now, I'll go click on this PHP MyAdmin. When I click on PHP MyAdmin, see, I've got a server page here. Now, this server page from exam looks similar to the one which we have as in our paid server, right? So this is my paid server. This is my paid application. And here I have the same database, same tables and all that. And this is my exam, which is in my local system, and it also looks the same. So when you're developing any dynamic application, you can use exam to create database, to create tables. You can work on it locally. And after you're done, you can just go to export and import option here. Whatever you wanted to export, you can export. Go to this live server. You have import option here. You can import it. That's it. As simple as that. You don't have to do everything in your live server directly. Okay. So now that you have all this, let's get into the PHP part. Now, day one, I told you PHP is one technology which acts as a middleware between your front end application and your back end server. Yes. So PHP is a kind of a middleware. It is also called as a server side scripting language. Okay. PHP is a server side, a scripting language that runs in server. Server side scripting language. So ultimately what PHP can do, PHP can connect your front end web application to your back end server. All right. Now to write PHP code, again, you can write it in your notepad or you all have your Visual Studio Code with you. You can write it there also. So PHP codes will have extension .php. So if you're creating any file, let's say index, the extension of PHP code is going to be .php. Now, to run PHP codes in your Visual Studio, again, day one, you went to extensions and install live server. Yes. Similarly, go to extensions and type PHP IntelliFence. This one, PHP IntelliFence. This is the extension which you have to install. Okay, PHP IntelliFence. And after you install this extension, go search for SQL tools. SQL tools, and you have to install this. So these are the two extensions which you have to install in your Visual Studio. Now you have your lab setup ready. Yes, you have all the core lab extensions ready. All that you have to do is you have to write code. What is your problem? Enna paste irkeenga? Edha solluma? Yes, so these are the two extensions which you will install. PHP IntelliFence and the SQL tools in your VS Code. Okay, now after you have installed all these in your Visual Studio, you have to open a new folder. So make sure you're opening your Visual Studio in new window. Go to file, click on new window, and it is going to open a new window here. And in your new window, you have to choose a folder. No, this is the first thing which it showed you when you started using VS Code. Now here, look at the location which I'm choosing. I'll click on open folder. Listen carefully. Only then your PHP scripts will run. If not, if you're choosing different location, it's not going to run. So click on open folder here, and it is going to open my computer. Go to local disk C and choose XAMPP. And inside XAMPP, you have a folder called htdocs. htdocs, right? Click on htdocs. And once you click on htdocs, you will find few folders which are there already. Create a new folder here. Okay. Now I'll create free web dev. I'll create a folder something like this. I'll choose this folder. And I'll click on select folder. Now we are inside that particular folder. This is where you're going to create your PHP files, not any other location. Okay. So whatever files you're going to create, it should be inside the exam folder, because that is the server where you will be allowed to run your PHP code. Okay. This is the lab setup which you should have it in hand. And after that, you can start writing your PHP code. Okay. Now that we are inside this particular folder, I'll go create a new file and I'll give a name called index.php. Okay, I'm going to create a new file called index.php. Let me zoom in. Okay, so now we have one file created inside the folder where inside XAMPP, inside htdocs, I created a new folder called free web dev, and I have this index.php inside. This is the file which I've opened here. Okay. Now, how does a PHP code look like? PHP code normally starts with this symbol. That is the angular bracket, question mark, PHP. And when you end it, it has to be question mark and close angular bracket. This is how you write PHP code. So all the PHP code should be written inside this syntax. Okay, right. Now, yesterday when we were speaking about JavaScript, I told you there are few concepts which gets repeated in all programming languages, right? So the concepts which we discussed were variables, and then, okay, why am I typing it here? We have variables, we have data types, we have conditional statements, we have loop statements, we have functions. What else did we discuss? That's it. These are the default concepts which keeps repeating in all the programming languages, right? Similarly, in PHP also, you have all these concepts. Yes, you have variables, you have data types, you have if, you have for, you have while, you have functions, you have all this in PHP. Now, yesterday I told you what these are, and we also run few programs in JavaScript and we saw the output. Similarly, I'll also show you small codes with PHP. The meaning is same. Variables meaning is to store data. Conditional statement meaning is to check condition. Loop statement meaning is to execute the code again and again. Function meaning is to repeat the code for code reusability. The meaning is same. Only the look of the code will be different. That is the syntax part. Okay. Now here if you see, every variable in PHP should have a dollar symbol. That is the first rule. Okay. So when you declare a variable in PHP, make sure you're putting a dollar symbol in front of the variable name. And name can be of any name. You can keep any name you want. All right. Now here I have a variable called greeting and I have a message inside. And then I have another variable called age. I have a number inside. And then I have another variable called is student and I have a value inside. So I have dealt with three data types here. One is string, another one is integer, and another one is boolean. True or false comes under boolean data type. So just like JavaScript, you don't have to use data types here. Int, string, float, boolean, you don't have to explicitly give that here. You directly give the value and the variable is going to take that value accordingly. Okay, this is how you initialize variables in PHP. So normally, next time, if you open any PHP file, you find dollar symbol, it means it is a variable. Variable name along with the value. All right. Now, in PHP, to display an output, the command or the function that you use is echo. Yesterday, we saw alert function and we saw prompt function, all those functions, right? And one another was console.log. Yes. Similarly, here in PHP, to display an output, you use echo. Echo is the command which is used to display output, and you don't have to use this parenthesis and all. That all is not necessary. You can directly type echo and then you can give the variable name. So it is directly going to print the variable. Now here what I've done is I'm trying to print all the data in one single echo command. I have three variables and I wanted to print all these in one echo statement. So to separate, I have used dot operator. If you've learned Java, you have this output statement called system.out.println. Yes, and in system.out.println, when you wanted to print something, system.out.println, let's say your name is, and if you wanted to type the variable name, you'll either give comma or plus. Plus, you'll use plus, right? Plus and then the variable name. Yes. Similarly, here in PHP, instead of plus, you're going to use the dot operator. So meaning is same, only the operator is different. Okay. So this dot operator is separating everything. I'm going to print age and then I'm going to use the variable name. Then I'm going to print student and then I'm going to answer with the yes or no. Can anyone tell me what is this operator name which I've used here? Very good. This is called ternary operator. We have many operators in all programming languages. Question mark and colon is called ternary operator. What it will do, it will first check the condition. If this condition is true, this will be executed. If this is false, this will be executed. That is ternary operator. All right. Now that I have this PHP code ready, how do you see for output? How do you check the output of this code? To check the output of this code, you have to go to browser. Okay. In browser, in URL, you will type localhost. Okay. And you have to give a slash. And then you have to type the folder name. What is our folder name? Free web dev. That is the folder which I've created. So I'll type free web dev. And inside this folder, I have index.php. So since the name is index.php, I can directly run. And see, this is the output. Instead of index, if you have any other name, then you have to give the name there. Okay. So this is the output for the program. So it is displaying the greeting variable and then the age variable value, and student is yes because the value which we have given here is true. Got it? So this is how you're going to check your output for PHP. Now this is actually running in your exam server. You're typing the code in Visual Studio and the output you're seeing it using the exam server. All right. And yes, so you have many data types like string. So if you're going to create a string variable, just use double quotes. And then you have integer value, float value, which comes with point values, boolean where you will give true or false. And we also have a type called array where you can give multiple values. These are the data types which are present in PHP. Okay. And this is again the if condition. So if condition, here we have a variable called score, and then just like yesterday how we saw if condition in JavaScript, same. So if inside bracket you can write the condition, and then you can use the echo command to display your output. Okay. So for this score is 85. What will be the output? 85 greater than or equal to 90? No. What will be the output for this? Grade B. Yes. Yes, it's grade B. Okay, and then we have for loop. For loop again, just like same JavaScript which we saw yesterday. For you have to initialize the variable, then you have to check the condition, then you have to increment or decrement. The only difference is the dollar symbol. Before variable, wherever you write the variable, just put the dollar symbol. That's it. Okay, and one speciality of echo is echo will allow you to write HTML tags inside. So whatever HTML tag you write inside echo will get executed. Okay, now here I have written BR tag. What is the purpose of BR tag? Break. Yes. So what it will do for each loop, it is going to break a line. So you will get number 1 and then break, and then number 2 and then break number 3. So echo will also help you execute your HTML tags. All right. Now just like for, we have, okay, again we have while, that is okay. We have something called for each in PHP. For each is used for arrays. Okay. So this is present in PHP. So here I have created an array. Now if you wanted to individually display the array items, you can use for each loop. Okay. So for each, you can use any name, any variable name here as, and then you have to give your array name here. Right. So what it will do from array, it is going to take each and every value and it is going to substitute it to this variable, and you can display it and see it here. All right, this is for each for arrays, and then you have function. So function, again you will use function keyword to create a function. In JavaScript also we used function keyword only, right? So same function keyword. And what type of function is this? Function with parameter. So when you call this function, you have to send a value. Yes. So for this, the output is going to be hello Alice. All right. So now this is basic PHP, how to run PHP using exam and your Visual Studio Code. This is how you can practice PHP, right? Now, we've seen till this. Okay. Yesterday, as an assignment, I gave you an assignment to create a form. So with that form, we have just only done the validation part. Yes. Today, what we are going to do is we are going to use the same form, and whatever data is being entered in that form, you are going to store it in the database. That is your assignment for today. Okay. So the flow of your assignment is going to be something like that, this, and I'm going to give you all the demos and all the codes which is going to help you do that. So you already have a form which is ready. Let's say the form has first name, last name, email, and submit. Let's assume you have a form something like this. Okay. Now, with what you've learned so far, you have a server with you. That is your exam server. Okay. You have an exam server, and in this exam server, it will allow you to create a database, right? Yes. So you are going to go create a database in your server. Okay. Once you create a database in your server, let's have a name called MyDB. After you create a database, next step is you have to create a table. Now, you are going to create a table. For that, you have to give a name. I'll give a name something like users. This will be my table name. And inside this table, how many columns do I need? I need 3 columns. As of now, I have 3 data which is coming from the form. So I need 3 columns. That is first name, last name, and email. I need 3 columns, right? So you have to create table. Now, once your database in table is ready, okay, you have the form ready, you have the database table ready. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to create a PHP file. So, in this PHP file, the first step that you're going to do is you're going to establish connection, because this PHP file is going to be in your Visual Studio Code, right? So, from this Visual Studio Code, you have to establish a connection with this server in the backend. So that is the first step that you will do. You will extend the connection with this database. Once you extend the connection with this database, second step what you will do is you're going to collect data from this HTML form. From this HTML form, you're going to collect the data inside this PHP file. Once you collect the data, the third step that you're going to do is you're going to send the data to this table. Once the data enters into this table and once it gets stored here, you're going to display a message, data stored. Okay, this is the format of the assignment that you're going to do now. Now you already have a form. Let's say the name of this form is form.html. This is the form which you have. And then now you're going to create a PHP file. We'll name this PHP file as insert.php, because it is going to insert the data, right? You'll have insert.php and you have your exam server here. Exam server, this is your PHP myadmin, where you're going to create your database table and all this. Okay. Now, in this, first I'll show you how you have to create a database and table in the exam. So for that, what you have to do is you have to go to your exam. Again, go to localhost, and in localhost, click on PHP myadmin. It is going to take you to your server page. Okay. And as I told you, in the left hand side is what we have databases. No, here go click on this new icon. You're going to create a new database now. Okay. So you'll click on this new icon and it is asking you for a database name. So here you have to give a database name. So I'll give a database name something like this. Free web dev will be the database name. And I'll click create. That's it. Don't change anything. Just give a name and click on create. Once you click on create, you should have the database here, appearing here. Okay. Now that we have a database, I'll go click on this database and it is asking me to create a table. So first things, what we have done is we have created a database, and next step is to create a table. So I'll give a name called users to this table name. And how many columns do I need? I need 3 columns. So I'll give number of columns 3 and I'll click on create. You don't have to write any code for this. Yes, it is as simple as that. Once you give 3, see, it is asking you for column names. So here, let me write column name as first name, another column name with last name, and another column name with email ID. And next step, it is asking me to choose the data type. Okay. So I'll choose varchar for all. Just keep it common. Now varchar is a data type in PHP that accepts both numbers and characters. All right. So I'll just choose varchar. And then you have to give length. These are the three things which you have to fill. Okay. So first name, I'll give length 20. Last name, I'll give length 20. And email, I'll give length 30. And I'll give save. I'll click on save button. So once I've saved, see, I've got a table created here. That's it. So now we have this form ready, and in the server, we have the database and the table ready. Yesterday, you have prepared a form. Today, you will create a database and a table according to the form which you have. So now here I've created a form based on what I've mentioned here, just 3 fields. But yesterday I asked you to create 7 fields, right? So you have to create 7 columns here. Okay. Now this is done. The next step is you have to establish connection. This is the first step that you have to do. Before that, let me share the attendance form for online students. Day 4 attendance. Okay, I've shared the attendance form. Please fill your form and come back for the session. Okay, where are we now? We're here. All right. Now, before getting into this PHP part, we still have time. Now, I told you PHP will take care of connecting the forms, connecting your web application with the backend server. Okay. But to deal with this database in tables, here, you have database in tables, right? Now, these database tables, they understand only one language, that is MySQL. Yes, MySQL is a language which you use. It is a query language which you use to communicate with the database. All right. Now I've created a database and I've created a table, right? That I did with the help of exam. With easy user interface, we have done it. But the same thing you can achieve using MySQL commands also. Okay. I'll just give you a gist of MySQL commands. So in MySQL, you have commands like create, you have alter, you have drop, and then you have insert, update, delete. What else do you have? Select. Okay. These are the major commands. Yes, these are the major commands that is there in MySQL. So MySQL, using this, you can create database, you can create table. After you create table, you can insert data. And then if you want to take the data and display it back, you can use select. Yes. So here, now I created a table, right? If I wanted to do it using MySQL, the query goes something like this: create table and then the table name, open parenthesis, and then I'll give the column names: first name, last name, email, and then I'm going to give the data type and the size: varchar 20, varchar 20, and then varchar 20. That's it. Whatever we did in your backend server using UI, this is the command which again does the same thing. Okay, so this is how you create a table. Now, creating a table is fine, that you will do. But for inserting data, you have to write query in your PHP. You can't use UI for that. Okay, so for that, I'll tell you the query. To insert data into the table, the query goes something like this: insert into, and then you will write the table name, users. Okay, and then you will type values, and inside parenthesis, you're going to type the values. So first name, last name, and then the email ID. This is the insert query. This is one format of insert query. The same format, you have another format also, where insert into users, you can type the column names here. That is first name, comma, last name, and comma, email. You can type the column names and then you can give the values. This is another format. There are two formats where you can insert data. Okay. Now that you have inserted data, if you wanted to display the data back, what is the command that you use? You go for select. So select star or asterisk from the table name. Here asterisk means everything. So it is going to take all the data and it is going to display. Okay. Select asterisk from users. Okay. As of now, you just need 3 queries for today. And okay. Now let's come back to PHP. Now that you know SQL query here. So first things first, before getting into this, I'll show you one demo. I have a form here. Okay. So I'll take this form. I'll go to Visual Studio and I'll create a HTML page here. I'll just create a file called test.html. Okay. And inside test.html, I'm just pasting a form here. Okay, this is a simple form which has 3 fields. One is ID, second one is name, and third one is email. A simple HTML form. Okay, and in this form, if you see, in the form tag, I have written an attribute called action, and I've linked this form to a PHP file, test.php. And then I've used a method called post. Okay, here I am simply linking this particular form to a PHP file. Now, do we have this PHP file? No, we don't, right? So let's create a PHP file. So I'll just click on follow link, create PHP file. Now I have test.php. So for test.php, what I'll do is I'll just copy paste this PHP code and I'll tell you what it is doing. It's very simple. So first what I'll do is I'll open test.html and show you how the form looks like. So inside free dev, we have test.html. So this is the form which we have. All right, ID, name and email. Okay. Now if I type ID, name and email value and if I hit on submit, what should happen when I click on submit? The action which we have given here is test.php. So which means once you click on submit, it is going to go to this file test.php. And the method which we are using is post. You have two methods. One is get and another one is post. Among these two, which is secure, post is secure. Okay. Post is secure to transfer your data from one file to another. Okay. So we are using this method post and we are going to test.php. Now let me open test.php. So in test.php, what I've written here is we have a request method called post. So through post method, we have 3 data, ID data, name data, and email data that is coming from test.html to test.php. So what we are doing is we are going to collect all the 3 values, ID, name and email, and I'll store it in a PHP variable. Where do I get this ID, name and email? In my form. See here, I have name and ID values here, right? These are the values which you should use here. Okay. So with that values, I've collected the values from the form and I've stored it in variables here in PHP. Now here I've just collected it and I've written a simple code with echo. So what I've done is I've just tried to print the value back. Yes. So what I'll do is I'll go to this form. I'll type my name. Okay, this is ID, right? So I'll type an ID and I'll type my name and I'll type my email ID and I'll click on submit. Once I click on submit, it has to go to test.php, displaying the value. No. Why? Any error here? Okay, I didn't save. Sorry. Let me save it and let me try to run it again. Test.html. So I'll type the ID, then I'll type the name, and then I'll type email ID and I'll click on submit. See here, test.php got executed. It collected the data from my form and it is displaying it back to us. Okay, so you will use the get post method to collect the data from your HTML and you will use it in your PHP. Now till this you're clear? Yes? Okay. Now since you are clear with this, what we are going to do in this test.php, instead of displaying the data, I don't want to display. I wanted to store the data, right? Now instead of this, what we are going to do is, first thing, we are going to establish connection to your backend database. Yes, this is the first step which you will do. You have to establish the connection part. So for that, what we'll do is we'll copy this code. Okay, this is displaying. It is. Okay, where is my another VS code? It is here. Okay, give me 1 minute. Therefore, I have insert. Okay, this here. So here, to establish connection, see this code here. First things, I've created 4 variables. Okay. So now the first thing what we are doing is we are doing this first step, this one. All right. So this one, to establish connection, I have 4 variables created. One is server name, username, password, and database name. Okay. Now, my server name or your server name, everyone's server name is going to be localhost. If you're using exam, this is your server name. So there is no change with the server name. Next thing is the username. By default, exam username is root. So again, this is same. No change in that. And then password, by default, exam doesn't have a password. So you just leave it blank. That's it. And here in this database name, you have to give the database name which you have created. Okay. Now in my exam, I have a database called MyDB. See here, I have a database called MyDB. And inside this, I have a table called users. And inside this table, I have 3 columns, ID, name, and email. Okay, I have a database and I have a table and I also have few details inside this. Okay, now we have here, we also have the form. If you look at test.html form, we have 3 ID, name, and email. So whatever I am going to type here, it is going to get stored where? In this particular table. It is going to get stored here. Okay, so for that, first you have to establish connection. So I'll create 4 new variables and I'll declare server name, username, password, and database name. After that, to establish connection, you have to use the MySQLi function. This is a default function in PHP. Okay, so I'll use this MySQL default function and I'll pass all the 4 variables. Whatever variable you have created here, you have to pass these 4 variables to MySQLi function. And I'm assigning it to a variable here. Now, I am checking whether the connection is established or not. To check that, I have written a simple if code. So in this if code, I'm checking if there is any error with the connection, just display connection failed. That's it. Along with the error message. What is the error? If not, we are good to go. So if there is any issue with the connection, we should know. Only then we can check, right? So for that, I'm checking the connection using the if command. All right. Next step, see what we have done is the same. We have this post method here. So using the post method, we are collecting the values from the form and we are storing it in a variable ID, name, and email. Okay. So I've stored it in ID, name, and email. And next step, again, I've created a variable. I'm using functions called prepare and bind param. These 2 are the functions which is going to allow you to execute your SQL query in PHP. So using prepare, see here, I've written the SQL query. So I've written insert into table name and I've written the column names. And next line, I've written values and I've given 3 question marks. Here, instead of this 3 question mark, I should actually pass these variables, right? Yes, but I didn't do that. I have given 3 question marks. And for these 3 question marks, I have given the values in the next line. I'm using the bind param function and I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? I'll tell you in short time. Okay. I can do it in the same line. I can give the ID, name, and email directly here. But instead of doing that, I'm using a function called bind param and I'm sending the values. Okay. Now that we've created this SQL query, you have to execute that query. So you're executing this query and you are equally checking whether the query is executing or not. If the query executes, output, it should show you new record created successfully. If not, it should show you the error. Okay. And then you have to close the connection. Whichever connection you have opened, you have to close it. That's it. This is the meaning of this code. Okay. Now I'll save this. I'll save this HTML also. And what I'll do is I'll go to the form. I'll refresh this form. Now let me type value here. I'll type 105 and I'm going to type a name. Let's type Sam, and email ID is going to be sam@gmail.com. And I'll click on submit. So when I click on submit, see, new record created successfully. And when I go to my local host, I open my database, I go to users, I click on my table name, and see here, Sam data got inserted here. Okay, this is how you insert data. Fine. So from the form, so what we have done is we have created a connection and then we collected the data. We sent the data using insert query, and then I just displayed a message, new record created, inserted successfully. That's it. These are the 4 steps. So all you need is the HTML form. You need a PHP file, and then you have to have your server with database and table ready. Okay. Now, the next concept is, if you wanted to display, you take all these data from the table and you wanted to display it here, back. Yes, if you want to display it back, again, you're going to use the same concept, but instead of using insert query, you're going to use the select query. Okay, now see how this code looks like. I'll copy this code. I'll go here. I'll create a new file. I'll type it as display.php. I'll create a new file and I'll paste it here. So here, first I have again established connection and I'm checking whether the database is connecting or not. These all are same, just what you did in the previous program. Okay. Now, this is the part which is going to actually do the work. The first thing what I've done here is I've written a select query. Select your column names from the table name. This is the query. And I'm putting this query inside a variable called SQL. Okay. And after that, I have to execute this query. So I'm executing this query with the help of query function. Query function is a default function in PHP. It will allow you to execute your SQL query, and the result which we get is stored inside this variable, result variable. Now, all these data, all these 4 rows data is actually inside your result variable now. It is actually inside your result variable now. What you have to do, since we have 4 datas here, we have 4 rows here, right? If you don't have 4 rows, you have only 1 row in your table, you don't have to go for loops. Just use echo statement and you can directly print. But since we have 4 rows here, I've used a while loop. So using while loop, I am just using an echo command to print all the values. That is the ID value, name value, and the email value. So unless and until you have data in your table, this loop will keep executing again and again and again. Okay. Now, display.php, let me go to browser and type display.php and see here, database connected successfully and it has displayed all the 4 data in the table. Okay, this is how you display data back. So today you have learned to take the data from front end and store it to the back end and take the data from back end and display it back to the front end. All right, you understood the flow. The flow is this. All you have to focus on is how you are writing the code and without any syntax mistake. Okay, now I'll tell you one thing, one concept in this. Now, when you have a form here, form.html, right? Now, what is the name? Test.html. Test.html here. Now, user is actually supposed to type only relevant data inside these forms. If the form is asking for ID, user has to type ID value. If the form is asking for name, user has to type the name. If it is asking for email, user has to type the email only. Okay. Any common user, any general user will do that. But imagine an attacker opening this login page. Do you think he'll enter data here? No. He is obviously going to try hack this particular form. Yes. When he tries to hack this particular form, there is one type of attack which the attacker will try to use, and that attack is called SQL injection. SQL injection. So SQL injection is where the attacker is going to use a set of injection code or payload, you can say. Now, one such is one code or port 1 code equal to port 1. This is one type of injection payload. Okay. Instead of writing the name in this form, if the attacker is going to give this SQL injection code inside this, he'll be able to compromise your database. He'll be able to access your backend database, take all the data without your knowledge. This is an attack called SQL injection. If this shouldn't happen, you have to parameterize your PHP code. For that, we have used these two commands. Where is it? See, bind param function. Okay, instead of giving the values directly here, what I've done is I've given question mark and then I'm using a function called bind param to pass the values. Bind param is an PHP function which will check whether the user is sending proper values or is he trying to send any special characters. So if user tries to send any special character like this, one code, port 1 and all, this bind param function will stop the user from accessing your page. So the user will not get access to your database. This is called parameterization, where you are actually checking what values are being entered by the user. So this is how you try to prevent SQL injection attack. So to prevent that, you have to prevent it through code only. And this is how they do it with the code part. Okay, you understood? Yes. So as of today, your assignment for today is going to be the form which you created yesterday. You're going to create corresponding table for that particular form and you'll create relevant fields and then you will create a PHP file which is going to take all the data and store it in the table. All right. And the output screenshot which you will attach will be two screenshots. One is the page that displays record inserted successfully, and the other screenshot will be your backend table page. This one. This will be your one screenshot, and another screenshot will be once you click submit, it is going to show you record inserted successfully, right? That will be your another screenshot. Two screenshots is what you will attach to your Google Form. All right, got it? Yes. That's it for today. We'll meet again tomorrow. Thank you, guys.